thankful to be in the house of the Lord tonight. Yeah, he's right, and I guess it's any opportunity to see him, I guess I'll have to take the excuse. But I also want to tell you that we've been delighted to come and share the Word of God with you, and I do know that in many cases, either Wednesday night or generally Sunday night is the backbone of the church. They're the faithful few, the ones that stick around through thick and thin. And that doesn't belittle those that are there on Sunday morning. I'm not saying that, but I'm telling you that it's generally that way as a general rule. And so there's much to be said. We shared a thought this morning. One of the comments that we made was, it's not what the container looks like, it's what's in the content. And I was, honestly, because the first thing Jerry did was, your pastor did, was look at me and you're conservative. You're wearing conservative. Yeah, you're right. To be honest with you, I was going to wear a pair of old tennis shoes. And I want to share the reason for that. I didn't, but I want to share the reason for that. Last Sunday, I grabbed the tennis shoes and I took them to church with us. And Trish said, what are you doing? I said, it's okay. So before the message, and this is how God showed to me, before the message, I put them on and I stood in front of the people. I said, what is your perception? Now, if I had something that was an old pair of jeans or whatever, what would your perception be? Your perception would be, it doesn't fit, right? You don't assume that it fits well behind the pulpit. And I understand that there are people in society who do that. I understand that, but it doesn't appear to fit because it's not who you are. And I said, well, how does it affect your not just your perception, but how does it affect your expectations? And some of the folks said, well, it would change perhaps my expectations. I said, yeah, but not everybody's expectations would change. Am I right? Yes. I took them off because I didn't want them concentrating on the tennis shoes while we're reading the Word of God. So the reason I said that and shared that with them is because I want to share with you, I want you to understand that there are folks tonight and people in the world that have an unusual expectation of God. They see Him not the same way we see Him.
That's right. That's right.
And their expectation is skewed or it's inaccurate. They really don't know who He is. And the reason that it would not affect, while I was wearing them, some people's expectations, not because of what I had and what they saw on the outside. I believe that nature proves that God exists. I believe it talks to God every day. It reflects God every day. Yes. But the reason I made that statement is because the more you know God, the less your perception of natural things and things around you affect your expectations of Him. Because here's what I want you to understand. It doesn't affect your expectations because you know me. And I told church, I said, because you know me, therefore it wouldn't change the expectations. The more you know God, the less my perception changes my expectations of Him. Because I'm telling you, I want you to understand this, that God never changes. It doesn't matter what my perception is. It doesn't matter what people put and tell me their thoughts and their skewed thinking about God. God just doesn't change. And I think it's cool. I've got a thought I want to share with you. And some of it is condensed from some things that we've preached in the last couple months. Because I feel the need. I feel it's important. And I want to share with you what God has shared with us. So, Exodus, let's do this. Let me read just a few verses of chapter 4. And we need to read a few verses of chapter 4, a few in chapter 5, and then a few in chapter 6. It's not tons of verses, but I want you to read this because you need to understand the background behind this. All right? So when you find your place, stand with us. Exodus chapter 4. All right, Exodus chapter 4, verse 1. Let's read the first 5 verses. And Moses answered and said, but behold, they will not believe me. Now remember, this is after he had seen the burning bush and God had called him to go get Israel. Nor hearken unto my voice, for they will say, the Lord hath not appeared unto thee. And the Lord said to him, what is that in thine hand? He said, a rod. And he said, cast it on the ground. He cast it on the ground and became a serpent. And Moses fled from before him. And the Lord said unto Moses, put forth thine hand, take it by the tail. And he put forth his hand and caught it, and it became a rod in his hand, that they may believe that the Lord God of their fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob, hath appeared unto thee. Now let me throw this statement in. Other people will not believe you about God until you believe about God.
Amen.
Right? Because here's the issue with Moses. Moses is objecting to his going down to Israel, not because he'd already been there, but he's saying, Lord, they're not going to listen to me. And until Moses had come to the place that he believed that God would do it, he could not affect the people that he was delivering. Right? Now, chapter 5, and afterward, Moses, verse 1, Moses and Aaron went in and told Pharaoh, thus saith the Lord God of Israel, let my people go, that they may hold a feast unto me in the wilderness. And Pharaoh said, who is the Lord, that I should obey his voice to let Israel go? I know not the Lord, neither will I let Israel go. All right? And they said, the God of the Hebrews hath met with us, let us go. We pray thee 3 days journey into the desert, to sacrifice unto the Lord our God, lest he fall upon us with pestilence or with the sword. And the king of Egypt said unto them, wherefore do ye, Moses and Aaron, let the people from their word go get ye unto your burdens. Now, let's look at chapter 6. All right? Then the Lord said unto Moses, now shalt thou see what I will do to Pharaoh. Because verse 2, the response of Pharaoh was a challenge not to Moses, but it was a challenge to God. It wasn't, well, who is this guy? Who is this God? It wasn't that kind of comment. It was, who in the world does he think he is? Now they increased their burden. Moses now goes to God and said, what are you doing? All right? Because he tells the Lord, he said, verse 22, back up in chapter 5, Moses returned to the Lord and said, Lord, wherefore hast thou so evil entreated this people? You really think God was being evil to them? The evil didn't come at the hand of God, it came at the hand of Pharaoh. Because he challenged God. I'm telling you, be ready when somebody challenges God. So God says this. Then the Lord said to Moses, now shalt thou see what I will do to Pharaoh. I'm not only going to show him what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. Oh my Lord, have mercy. All right? For with a strong hand shall he let them go, and with a strong hand shall he drive them out of his land. That's contradictory to his statement. And God spake unto Moses and said to him, I am the Lord. Oh my standing. Hang up on him, man. What he was saying is, Pharaoh is challenging me. The first thing I'm going to prove to him, I'm God. Oh, my Lord, folks. I'm the Lord, and I appeared unto Abraham, unto Isaac, and unto Jacob by the name of God Almighty, but by my name Jehovah was I not known to them. And I have also established my covenant with them to give them the land of Canaan, the land of pilgrims, wherein they were strangers. Now he reminds them, I've heard, so verse 9, go down to verse 9. And Moses spake so unto the children of Israel, that they hearkened not unto Moses for anguish of spirit and for cruel bondage. Never should anguish of spirit, cruel bondage keep us from talking to God. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Go in and speak unto Pharaoh, king of Egypt, that he let the children of Israel go out of his land. And Moses spake before the Lord, saying, Behold, the children of Israel have not hearkened unto me. How then shall Pharaoh hear me, who have of uncircumcised lips? The Lord spake unto Moses, unto Aaron, gave them a charge unto the children of Israel, unto Pharaoh, king of Egypt, to bring the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt. You may be seated. There's some very key aspects about it. Here's the message. Here's the thought I want to preach. It's kind of a long one. I told Trish about it, or told the thought to her this morning. What to do when God's destination for me is on the other side of my fear. What to do when God's destination for me is on the other side of my fear. I'll give you 3 or 4 points. Because I am convinced Moses had run. He was a runner. But the problem in some cases with Moses, he's always running in the wrong direction. The ark that he was put in took him where he belonged. But when it ended up that he realized what God's plan was for him, he ran for fear. I'm not saying it was wrong. I'm just telling you he ran. He ran into the desert. He ended up on the other side of the desert. His place was not in Egypt. His place was where God wanted him. The only reason God let him go out into the desert and tend sheep was he had to get Egypt out of him and God into him. Amen. Right. And sometimes we get stuck in Egypt in our mind, but God has to take us through places to get the Egypt out of us so that the God can get in. Amen. Amen. What do you do when God's destination is on the other side of my fear? When they come up to the Red Sea, they were scared. They said, well, it would have been better if we'd have died in Egypt. When they come into the wilderness, they said, it would have been better if we died in Egypt. The people that came out of Egypt, most of them never made it into Canaan land. That's right. It's a tragic story. It wasn't the main people coming out of Egypt, it was their children. And Joshua had to spend a lot of time training them on how to cross over. Sometimes we have to remove the likeness of Egypt and who we are to put on who God is. So Pharaoh challenges God. He says, who in the world do you think you are coming down here and telling me what I'm going to do? You need to remember this, that it wasn't like the world we think of. Egypt at that time was the most powerful seat of power in the known world. He was one of the most, or the most powerful, one of the most powerful men on the planet. And here God is taking a guy that he wanted to kill to start with, sending him back in and saying, God said, let my people go. So what does God do? God looks at Moses and he says, you go back, because the last thing that I would expect when God find objections. Because honestly, when God says, do this, it really takes away, it removes to a point, it removes a certain level of fear and gives you a certain level of self-confidence. And you assume that everybody should understand that God told me to tell you. Right? We do. We just assume. Wait a minute. God told me to tell you. The first thing they did is they took away the very thing that gave them the opportunity to make what they were required in slavery. And he said, well, if you really, the talented rich can't change. If you really want to make them, go out and labor for yourself. The last thing I want in the midst of God's instructions is for the burden to get worse.
Sure. That's right.
Yeah.
My assumption is that when God makes instructions to me, it's to relieve my burden, not make it harder.
Right.
Say amen, man. Say amen. Because why do you pray? Because I have one. Sometimes, most of the time, sometimes we pray because I'm carrying one. I don't pray and ask God, come lay it on. Do you? No. You say, yeah, pray for me. I don't ask God, lay it on me. It's okay, I can handle this, no problem. Doesn't matter, but they objected. They said, why in the world did you come down here and tell him to let the people go? And all they did was make it hard on me. Let me say this, Satan is never going to let you go easy. I want you to understand this. When God gets done, you'll go. Amen. I'm going to tell, oh my Lord, have mercy. When God got done here, it wasn't just Moses that left. Everybody that wanted out could leave because it was a mixed multitude come out of Egypt. Amen. Let me say this. God's not impartial to anybody.
That's right.
Amen.
That's right. Amen.
God's not impartial to anybody. Anybody can get saved. Anybody can come out of Egypt. It doesn't matter who they are. So here's what he does. Here's what God does. He said, you go back and you tell them. Or let me tell you first. There's some things that your fathers knew about me. That they understood. They knew me by a certain level. A certain understanding. They understood me. He said, but he said, it's not about going back and reminding your fathers that are dead who I am. They knew me in their time a certain way. They're not in Egypt. They're not here today. They knew me at a certain level in their life. He said, and God, he said, I appeared unto Abraham, Isaac, and unto Jacob. He said, they know who I am. He said, by the name of God Almighty. He said, but by my name Jehovah was I not known to them. You know what God was telling Moses? You go down there and make sure that not only Pharaoh knows, but the people know. You know about what they said about me. When it comes to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. But you go back down there and you remind them, that's who I was to them. But there's going to come a place here real soon that you're going to find out who I really am.
Right.
Oh my Lord, have mercy. Got it?
That's right.
Get it. I'm telling you, you need to get this. There are times in our life that God comes along. He says, look, back there during that burden, I was this thing to you or this to you. But you're in a situation right now, I'm going to show not just you, but I'm going to show everybody else around you who I am. Amen.
Amen.
Man, that ought to throw some wood in your fire. God always reveals the plan before we need courage. I think sometimes these few of those messages in February are on courage. We need courage. So Moses, what does God do here in chapter 6? I want to show you this, and then we'll back up and I'll give you the point. say things about courage. Courage is not determined by size, resources, or weapons. David had courage. He ended up being a man of war. He had courage. When he faced Goliath, I made the statement this morning, we're talking about commitment. I made the statement this morning. David didn't win the battle and didn't prepare for the battle just when Goliath showed up.
That's right.
Yes, sir.
That's
Right.
Sometimes we have the tendency to manage by emergency. Well, an emergency come up, God, we need you. Well, an emergency come up, all of a sudden I find myself in an emergency or a difficult, God, I need you now. And sometimes I wonder, no disrespect, but I wonder if God's looking at us saying, don't you remember where I was when there wasn't a problem?
Yes, right.
Did you forget where I was when there was a problem, when there wasn't a problem?
Right.
The problem that Moses was going through was he forgot where God was when things were going well.
Amen. Amen.
I don't want to talk to God because I have an emergency in my life.
Amen.
We end up managing by crisis. In other words, a crisis comes, therefore God needs to get involved. A crisis comes, therefore God needs to get involved.
That's good, preacher.
You understand what I'm saying? And so Moses is saying, I'm in a crisis, God. Why in the world would you send us down here and tell us this? He said, let me look at it and just give you a scripture. Moses spake unto the Lord, saying, behold, the children of Israel have not hearkened to me. How then shall Pharaoh hear me, and who am of uncircumcised lips? You know what he was saying? He said, Pharaoh thinks I'm a heathen, and he said, the people think I'm a liar.
Yeah. Yeah.
Honestly, at this point, it wasn't about God's glory, it was about thinking about himself.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
I'm not taking away from the scripture by saying that.
No.
Look, we appreciate the fact that they were heroes of faith, but they had problems along the way.
Sure.
Yeah.
Jacob hated Leah, wasn't right, but he did. You understand what I'm saying? So God gave her a bunch of kids. At the end of the fourth kid, I told him this morning, I can't help it, I intertwined them too. He told her at the end of the fourth kid, she said, God is blessed, God is amazing. If Jacob could not give me what I need, but God can.
Yeah.
You get it?
Yeah.
Well, David did not face Goliath and learn how to face Goliath when Goliath showed up.
That's right.
That's good.
What he said was, well, back there, when nobody else was around but me and God, and I was tending sheep, a lion come out. And he said, I took care of the problem. God took care of the problem. He said, back there, when y'all didn't know it, a bear come out, took care of the bear. He said, this situation isn't any different.
Yeah.
You know what he was doing? He was telling them. He said, look, you didn't know about it back then. But I'm telling you what happened back then ain't no different than what God can do now. Amen.
That's right.
Huh?
That's good.
Listen to me. What God did for Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, God will do for you and I. Amen.
That's right.
That's right.
That's right. Amen.
Good, preacher.
Oh, my Lord, have mercy.
That's good.
So while Moses is fleeing, while he's talking to Moses, I want you to take this comment home, write this comment down. And I hung on it after I got it, I hung on it for a few weeks. God speaks in every direction. Sometimes we have the idea, and people have this idea, not necessarily you, but people that have a tendency to run from God most of their life, they think by running they can hide from Him. There's no place to run and hide from God.
That's right. Amen.
You understand what I'm saying? God's voice doesn't speak to me just when I'm going forward.
That's
That's
right.
right.
That's right.
That's right.
Moses is running away from from the serpent. God said, hey, where are you going? Come back here. Where are you going? Can you imagine? Can you see Moses? You pick it up. If you want it so bad, you pick it up. No. And I told him this. I made a statement. I said, look, you also need to understand, he told Moses, pick it up by the tail. You never pick a serpent or a snake up by the tail. I hate them to start with. It doesn't matter. I just think a good snake is a dead snake. Period. I don't care what they do. I don't care how. A good snake is a dead snake. That's all. That's in my head, okay? I see them, I jump, I run. I don't care. I might have to face one. Look, you're facing a snake today in Satan. Because he might not be a snake today, but he could be a lion today roaring. The closer you get to the roar, the more fear he wants you to feel. The thing about it is, the problem is, Moses' problem was the closer he got to God, the more fearful he was.
That's right.
The problem is, we need to quit assigning our fear to God, and our fear of Satan is the same thing.
That's good. That's good.
You have nothing to fear except God.
That's right. Amen. That's right. Amen.
What do you mean? Scripture. Explain that scripturally. I should fear God who can kill both body and soul in hell. That's what we should fear.
Right.
Yes.
Do not fear men that can only destroy the body. All they can do is kill the outside. They can't touch the inside. Amen? You understand what I'm saying? People are affected by it, though. The closer you get to the lion's den, the louder he roars, the more fearful we get. Right? He's just walking around as a lion, seeking whom he may devour. Okay? We have to remove the likeness of Egypt. So, point one. Let me give you, we're never going to be done if I don't do that. Point one, all right? Stay on holy ground. Stay on holy ground. Perfect love casteth out all fear. Well, that doesn't make sense to me when I fear. Well, Noah moved with fear. What was his fear? It wasn't the task of building the ark. What did he fear? He didn't fear the ability to finish it, because I believe everything God tells us to do, we can finish. He feared what the judgment God said was coming. Moved with fear. The building of his ark and the saving of his household. He moved with the fear of what God said was happening, even though he had never seen it in his lifetime. Let me say this. There are things we should move, things we hear about God and we know about God, that we should move with fear today, knowing that perdition and hell is coming for people. Amen. We should move with fear. It doesn't matter who's on the ark. The point is, they've got to know there's one to get on.
Amen. Amen. That's right.
You understand? God never told me to build an ark, but God told me there's an ark available. You understand? It's not about that I have to build one like Noah. It's the idea that we need to understand. That was an allegory. It was real, but it was an allegory. God shut the door. I don't care what they show you on the movies. Noah didn't shut the door. Noah and his family didn't pull ropes and shut the door. God shut the door behind them. When God shuts the door, it doesn't matter what you try. You can't open it.
That's right.
Number one, stay on holy ground. So what God does is he always has a tendency to bring us back to the place we met him. Sometimes people go there willingly. Sometimes people go there begrudgingly. No disrespect. Sometimes people go there begrudgingly because what it does, it reminds them not of what they've done, but it reminds them of what God did. So what God does to Moses, the first thing he says is, look, I'm going to show myself, and I'm going to show you and Pharaoh a piece of me that you've never known before. So what does he do? In the content of chapter 6, what he does, the first few years, what he does is, he says, I'm reminding you. Why do you stay on holy ground? Number one, A, is because God always reminds us of his commitments to us.
Right. Amen.
There's not a place in Scripture from Genesis saved, God's committed.
Yes. Yeah.
Why do people fear that? Why do people fear that? One of the fears comes, so the second thing he does, in chapter 60, then, Moses says, well, they think I'm a liar, and Pharaoh thinks I'm a heathen anyway. So what does he do? Does he look at Moses? The scripture doesn't detail this, but in the scripture it doesn't say he looks at Moses, says, pats him on the back and says, I'm sorry for you. I'm sorry they feel that way about you. He doesn't.
That's right.
Why? What does he do then? He then reminds Moses, says, I'm going to give you a charge. In other words, I'm reminding you of your commitment to me. Listen to me. Listen very carefully. I don't care what has been said in the past. I don't care what you think. I don't care what you perceive. Keep your commitment to God, number 2. Keep your commitment to God. I'm telling you, we're living in a situation right now. There is a battle going on between good and evil. It's always been going on, but it's getting worse and worse and worse. It's become evidently worse and worse and worse. I've never seen so much hatred coming out of people's mouths that are supposed to be people having their character in control.
That's right. Absolutely.
That's right.
We constantly tell the people in our church, keep your character in control, but then turn around and we want them to take the garbage that comes out of people's mouths that don't have their character in control. I'm not so sure sometimes we ought to keep our mouths shut.
Right.
Amen?
Yes, sir.
Sometimes people never know their problem until they know they've got a problem. They'll never ask God to help them with their problem until they know they've got one.
That's right.
True.
Well, study Leah the sons. You'll find those prophetic things in her relationship with her children. In her children, her first son was an indicator that people need to know that God of need.
Yes.
You cannot tell people they have a need without telling them who can meet it.
That's right.
That's right.
Number 1, stay on holy ground. God will take us back there. And sometimes we need to go back to holy ground, that place where we first met God. It wasn't the fact that the bush didn't burn up. It attracted his attention. There are things that God will do in our lives to attract our attention.
Yes, amen.
He lit the bush up. It wasn't consumed. Have you ever watched a fire? They can be pretty scary, some of them. The bush was on fire, but it wasn't consumed. Why did God do that? He did that to get the attention of Moses. When he got the attention of Moses, you see, God knows how to get your attention when you're not aware of it.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Oh my Lord, I got so much more. Right? So God got his attention. What's the first thing he does? Stop where you're at.
It's good for you. Yes, sir.
Don't take the representative of what's the world on your feet. Take that off. Sometimes when we go back to where we met God, God doesn't want us to come back like we have and like we are in the world. God wants us to come back. Take them shoes off. They don't represent who I am.
That's right.
Get them off and stand barefooted on holy ground. Let me say this, God knows everything about you.
Yes, amen.
There's nothing God doesn't know about you. Be hidden or not, it doesn't make any difference. There's nothing about you God doesn't know.
Absolutely.
And you know what God wants? You know what it is? You know what it represents? It represents my honesty before God. Because a lot of times we want to take them shoes off and throw them as a substitute for our spot. Oh no, this is who I am in the world. This is what I've done. This is my experiences. This is all that I am, that I've made of myself in the world. That's what people are doing. They're throwing all their shoes on holy ground. God didn't give me that this morning. I just got it. Listen to me. People today, what they're doing is they're taking everything that they think they are in the sight of man and throwing them God's way and saying, Steve blessed me because of that.
Right.
I'm so blessed, I don't know that you can. I wouldn't even tell about that. I wouldn't even think it. Do you understand? They're throwing all the worldly things inside of God, throwing it on holy ground and saying, God, there's who I am. And God brushing it aside. It doesn't mean anything to him. How can anything about me impress God that made me?
Right.
That's right.
That's right, preacher.
Huh? We say it again. How can anything that I have ever done,
Yeah.
no matter how wonderful it might be, how can what I have done ever impress God that made me?
Amen. Amen.
It doesn't impress him. And I'm saying it's not because we want to impress him, but I'm saying to you that never in our lives should what we are in the world ever become a challenge to who God is spiritually.
That's right. That's good. That's right. Good.
Well, you get that? Nothing about you can challenge God. Nothing about you is a challenge to God.
That's right. That's right.
I don't care how mad, I don't care how angry, I don't care if they kill thousands and thousands of Christians. Nothing about what they do is a challenge to God.
That's right.
It's okay, kill them, I'm just taking to heaven anyway. Well, what do you think's in the mind of God? He doesn't live like you and I. He doesn't live day to day.
That's right.
He understands and comprehends day to day. He understands our time because he works in time. But God doesn't work and live day to day like you and I do. His comprehension is far beyond ours. And he's like, okay. There was a lot of the Hebrews chapter 11, a lot of them that moved and did and exercised things by faith. And they were doing it because they believed in the promise. But they died not having received the promise.
That's right. That's right.
Why? Listen to me. Because God did not want them to mix and misunderstand his promise. I know he made a promise to Israel to give them the land and their own vineyard, etc., etc. But he didn't want them to misinterpret the promise of going to heaven.
That's right.
You get it, Trish?
Good.
So they didn't receive the promise. God having prepared something better, I'm just paraphrasing, had prepared something better for us. That they without us should not receive it. You understand what I'm saying? Lord have mercy. That way they couldn't go to God and say, hey, I got something better than you. Did God provide something better for me? Because I was an operator of faith. God provided something to me that he didn't provide to you. He didn't want them to misinterpret what he was promising them.
Right.
He wasn't promising them to live eternally on earth in a physical body. He was promising them heaven.
Right.
Yes.
So what they did is they went into the third part of the earth and they waited until the cross. And when Christ died, he went into the lower part of the earth and he reminded them. What did he tell them? He reminded them of God's promise. He said, what you have believed by faith is now standing before you in reality.
That's right.
That's right.
Huh?
That's right. Good.
Yeah.
I want to cry and shout at the same time. Do you get that? That was the promise. Look, you need to understand this. I appreciate all that God has blessed me naturally. Bar none. But brother, there's something better coming.
Amen. Amen. Hallelujah.
I don't care how big your mansion is or how big your car and how wonderful it drives. You can put new tires on and drive better. Huh? Put new tires on my truck. Boy, it drives a lot smoother. I'm really happy about that. You know, it doesn't have to be a $20 million. Do you get what I'm saying? There's something better coming than you'll ever experience in this life.
Amen. Amen.
Number one, stay with holy ground. Number two, stay committed to God. See if I can find where I'm at. Number three, keep your. No, I said stay committed to God. Right? All right. We need to fight with courage. And when Joshua ended up taking them across, he was not passive. story last summer. We must stand on holy ground. Number 2, stay committed to God. Number 3, if deliverance has to come, let God do it. I got 500 more points. We won't go into that. If deliverance has to come, let God do it. Why do you think God took them to the Red Sea? You ever think about that? There was a shorter way. Did you know that? There was a shorter way. God took them right to the Red Sea. Why did he do that? The very first thing God does in our life, okay, one of the first things God does in our life is take us to a place where we have to trust him.
That's good.
And the reason he took them to a place where they had to trust him was so that they could believe that if there was any deliverance going to come, they didn't get out of Egypt on their own accord. They didn't get across the Red Sea on their own accord. They didn't get through the wilderness on their own. So that God could show us his ability to get us through and deliver us. If there's a need for deliverance, let God do the deliverance. Let God do the deliverance. We need to let the power of God is used to overcome the method of Satan. I'll give you these 3 ABC. Why we need to let God do the deliverance, and then we'll close unless you're feeling up to it. The power of God is used to overcome the methods of Satan. The courage of God, or the courage from God, is used to overcome the lack of experience with Satan. You have all the experience you need? Well, I think I do up to the point that I am. I think there's some experiences that you have that will handle your life and give you what you need tomorrow or next week. But there are some battles and some challenges that we're going to face that we may never have faced before. But the courage of God is used to overcome the lack of experience with Satan, and the armor of God is used to withstand the attacks of Satan. Because he's going to attack. I want to share this with you, and from the very depths of my heart. My wife and I love your pastor and his wife with all my heart. That's why we willingly ask. What do you got right next month? Because it's not because we just enjoy the preaching, and I do. It's one of the things I do that I love the most. But we love being around them. And I want you to understand why. Because they're the type of people that put something into you. They put something into you. They give to you. And that makes me want to give something back. That's what relationship is. When God puts into us, it makes me want to give something back. You understand? For those of you that have been here for a long, long time, I want you to understand this. I want you to hear this. Men that stand behind the pulpit, they can't stand alone. And they can't do it without backbone. And that means you. It's not possible to do without you. And if you will learn from Joshua when you're down in the valley with the battle, Joshua didn't recognize and realize
that somebody up on the mountaintop was holding up his hand. He was just down there head first into the battle. And I want you to understand that the best he'll be is where he belongs up there. And the best you'll be is down there in the fight. That's the best you could be for one another. Because the more I realize and deal in the fight, and the more powerful he becomes up there, the more powerful I become down there. That's why God said, come boldly. What does that boldly mean? It doesn't come with self-confidence. It means come with godly confidence. Come boldly to the throne of grace, that we may be able to obtain mercy. Mercy is what gets you there. That's your opportunity to get there. That we may find grace to help in time of need. And a couple weeks ago, I'll close with this. A couple weeks ago, not this Sunday, but last Sunday, I learned this while I was in Sunday school, and I wanted to share it with you. But by grace are you saved through faith, that not of yourselves is a gift of God, not of works, lest any man should boast. Grace, in many, most applications. Why does God give you grace? I think grace, in my opinion, grace is one of the most powerful functions of God that there is. Why is that? Why is it that God saved by grace? Why is it that God tells us, come and get grace for help us in that? Why is that? So that any time you are by yourself or you feel stressed and by yourself, the grace is provided so that you'll always know that you're never alone. That you're never alone. I never realized that until a couple weeks ago. I have come to this understanding that no matter what I face, no matter what comes my way, regardless of how high on the mountain we get or how low in the valley we find ourselves, it makes no difference all over the map, wherever we are. The grace is always provided by God so that we could understand that there's never a point in my life I'm ever alone. Let's stand, please.
It's 177. 177.
Sing a song, see a need, let God show you something. Whatever the need is, you will come.
One second, Mike.
What do you say after God is good?
All the time.
All the time.
All the time?
God is
good. God is good.
All the time.
And all the time God is good.
How do you feel about that? Good. I feel good about that. Amen. I mean, honestly, you know, it's something we should have no shame saying.
Amen.
God is good
All
the time.
all the time.
God is good.
Everybody said?
Amen.
Trusting in His graces, are you washed in the blood of the Lamb?
I found this out when I was studying. If you look at what God had done when all of the plagues and everything that happened, there was no separation between Egypt and Israel until, I'll bet you can't guess which one, until the fifth one. It was when the fifth one happened that God distinguished the difference between the Egyptians and the Israelites. Keep that in mind. Thank you.
You enjoyed the message tonight, amen?
Amen.
Pray that you have. If you could be seated, we'll take prayer requests quickly. Continue to be prayer for those we've already mentioned, as well as a couple more that we had not mentioned today. Miss Dolly is still out, and she's very sick, and the doctors plainly told her, stay away from everybody. And so she's taking that advice wholeheartedly, and she's not doing well. She's at the point of pneumonia a couple of days ago. So this is her, I think, third run of whatever this bug is that she's had. So please pray for her and ask the Lord to help her and to strengthen her to get through this mess. And we'll be glad to have her back with us. It's been 3 weeks. But we're truly glad to know that we serve a God who can. Amen? Amen. So let's believe that. Who has a prayer request you want to share with us tonight?
I would like to have a very important prayer request for the church I go to. We're supposed to be purchasing a new church van, a bus and a church bus.
Valerie? Anybody else, prayer request? Ms. Judy?
The senior group has a missionary, Pastor Bill O'Lickey.
Yes.
He's very,
Thank you. She did give us a letter that they received from him about his well-being. He has influenza B and pneumonia. He's not doing well, so please pray for them and ask the Lord to help and meet the need there in North Dakota, right, Judy? North Dakota?
South Dakota.
South Dakota.
Right, right, South Dakota.
So please pray for them and ask the Lord to help. All right, anybody else with a prayer request? Okay.
Pray for Danielle. She went to the emergency room this morning with a little severe toothache. So pray for her. And then also pray for my uncle Greg, my mom's brother. He's had custody of his grandson for almost since before he was a baby, and the courts gave it back to the mother, which she's still doing drugs, and we're fighting to get the boy back. So just pray for the mother of this child, because even poor little Jada's had through all that. It's sad.
All right, any more prayer requests? Mike?
We're gonna get some good results Thursday morning on that.
All right, pray for my wife. She's battling a toothache since Wednesday, I think it was. So as you can tell, she's a little puffy in the cheek. First time she's ever had one. It was this way. Friday, she's laying there half in a coma from the pain. She's on the couch and she looked over at me and she said, I want to apologize and take back anything I've ever said about you whining about a toothache. I'm sorry, what'd you say I said? I want to take back everything I've said about how you whined about a toothache. I should have recorded that, yes. If you've had them, you know, they affect everything top to bottom. I mean, if you can't walk, you can't breathe without something, I mean, it's painful. So I understand it, so please pray for that. Also, Billy asked us, we spent the afternoon with them, and asked us to be in prayer for them. They're going to be leaving Tuesday for 6 weeks. They'll be on the road. They got to be in Houston Wednesday. So they're going to do a lot of traveling in these coming days. And he just asked for some traveling grace. They put a lot of money in their Sprinter van since they've been home this week to get it prepared for the long journey. So let's pray for them that the Lord will keep them safe as they're out on the road and keep them well. Amen. That's people we know, love, and support here at the church, so let's lift them up in prayer and ask them to help. And I want you to just remember, wherever they go, whatever missionary, whoever they are that we support, there's a big board of them back there. They are an extended outreach of you. So, I don't know about you, but if your finger is involved in something, I think you want the Lord to do something with your finger, right? Your hand, your arm, right? You with me? So you want that to be done right, and you want to do that prayerfully. Well, they're an extension of that hand, arm, finger. So pray for them, that they will do the things that the Lord will have them to do to win people to Christ. Amen? Amen. So I'll give you one update, and then, I'm sorry, we don't have a prayer request? Any more? Val? All right. CT had another youth rally in, I just lost the name of the city. Kingsport, Tennessee. He was there Saturday. 12 people come to know Christ as their Savior. Amen? And what a great opportunity to see that. So let's pray. I believe that there's still people leaning on the everlasting arms of God who need a Savior and need somebody to tell them about it. As bad as things are, you can speak a word of grace into somebody. You never know how much you can change their life. So let's share it. Share the gospel. You are the salt of the earth. Share it with them. All right, stand with us. Let's be dismissed. Please take time to pray this week. One of Pastor Steve's favorite lines I hear him say is pray, 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 pray. When you're done praying, pray. So please do that this week. Pray for those who are in need of touch. All right? Pastor Steve, you would make your way to the door. Thank him and his bride and daughter for singing for us and preaching for us. On your way out, please tell somebody about the church. Invite them over. We can share Jesus and love on them here at First Baptist. We're glad to have you. Hope you enjoy your time today. All right, Mr. Boyd, will you pray for us, brother?
Whites and fans.
You rode your bike here? No, that's a young kid up there. Right, one guy. I thought maybe you were trying to rode. No.
DJ said he was going to work today.
That's right. Well, now Jenny's got,
Seniority, it's called seniority.
that's right.
I'll help you out there. I couldn't think of what it is, seniority.
Hey, Jenny, I need you to sign this card. It's for our missionary. So we voted this morning. I told them, I had the seniors come up there and I talked to them and I told them we're going to send a letter. So we voted 2 days ago. 2 days ago. Yes, I had to change everything. Because I had that bunch of several, $100,000. And I, so I said, everybody here's got insurance and everybody here can tell you it does not cover that. And being on that Indian so anyway,
I'm thinking it might be the same one where the China Billy guys.
it might be because it's at the bridge.
Yeah.
Exactly. So anyway, they decided, mainly it was Bob. I know, he needs it. Now, his wife told me that said he booked her so much that when she was trying to talk or do something, she said, he was I said, no, do it. And then she told me another time she had to throw her shoe at me. So we may have to do some of that stuff. How's that pretty girl? You know, that dog is called cream chicken soup. However, she says no. But it's great on you. Yes, yes, we can see her. She said, well, I just want to go for a walk. She is gorgeous. You know, sometimes I don't know who she looks like. I'll look at her. Yes.
She's got both features of both.
She does now.
Like a purple.
When you had her up over your shoulder, she's got those eyes just like a picture. So it's just hard to tell. She's a doll, I tell you what. She's gonna be a first later.
Are you ready?
Ready to go home? Or eat when we're done? Eating all day. Days when I ain't got no food, they eat it all up. All at one time.
Okay.
All right.
I'll sit on it.
All right, see you then. See you later.
I was listening, so I had to make it.
Trish knows about it. Trish knows about it.
She was funny. She was funny. I realize sometimes you're in jail and just, even like some of their emotions now, they love it. Yes. Yeah, that would be yeah. Oh, yeah. She'd be on that if she was.
I said, apparently they're moving to the great.
Because they learn, sometimes you can break nothing, say something, nothing, see it. As fast as you get one of those like that, they don't have to teach us.
Pretty soon, they'll be showing you how to do it.
Somebody was there, instead of going to want to enjoy the race, forward as fast as you can.
I think that's what hurts. They do. Repent yesterday, last night, they were the right. But, well,
why God had to do that?
I've never laid it on my heart.
In Genesis, it says. You always, corner the head. But then the other thing what I was saying is,
He was now.
God's voice.
Gonna donate.
Because I hear that if I'm running from God, God's voice,
I told him, don't worry about it, I'll take it out of our offering.
but God's voice speaks in any good.
So anyway, I
His
know
voice
what I
speaks
do
in
is usually.
on the way away
Just
from
make sure
God.
your son gets
God
the
was
next
speaking to us.
And I go, "Give him
His
this."
voice never leads us in another direction.
Take care of you.
Oh, yeah.
No, just fine. She said,
Oh, that's pretty good.
but they want to investigate that.
Well, they can call it Well, you need to be out of California. That's what I saw. Andy told me.
And you have to go get a money order.
I said, just go walk around by one.
But anyway.
Oh, I'm in the nice news.
Lord.
I watched it, I watched it all up.
You know how we do
I
it.
come,
Baptist churches.
if she's awake and I happen to be up, she's watching it. When I come home, she's watching it. When she goes to bed, she's watching it.
Well, ain't nothing else worth watching on there.
When I'm tired,
When I was
tired,
around,
I'm just-
Yeah, Fox, I love Fox News.
Everybody loves
Sean Hannity, I love him.
But look,
I can't
the
listen.
guy at 3 o'clock says the same thing, the guy at 4 o'clock says the same thing.
Yeah,
The
sometimes
guy at
they
4
do.
o'clock says the same thing, the guy at 5 o'clock,
And then
and they had 4 more guests on there from a different panel selling the same thing. The other guy, okay, well, first,
Well, what,
got all that.
what bothers me is when you start like bringing everybody speaking about it. It's like, okay, well, this has a head bill, why are we talking about it?
All road, all road, it has been.
Like, seriously, you know,
It's like I told you this morning.
I
We
suppose.
just don't know things.
Yeah.
Well, Ruth told me before. She said, well, you know what men do? You just turn to the side. Women do that too. You get a few more days up. I know, females told me they've done it.
That's what he's doing at our church, he said to everybody.
And so busy with laundry, which reminds me, I need to get those towels.
We're trying to run, I can think of things up there.
Go
Well, you
ahead.
did.
So did you not really get to talk?
Yeah, that's our regular taxes, our regular taxes.
You have to claim it for
So all that being said, I don't have all that, just, I have it, but if I pay on my savings account, then we're gonna be just a little above it, and then I don't want to do that myself. So we talked about, this one, I said, so what I'm telling you, I'm not just counting all the students, or, I'm telling you,
There's some medicine for you.
I said, now, I want you to understand that I'm not gonna make out consensus. And in my heart, me and God, I said, I'm done with it. I see the most I said, I've been to a doctor once a week for the last 3 months. And I said, and now my teeth is on swing every 15 minutes. And my husband makes his job. I said, now I feel better saying that. I said, all the time.
Well, that's what I said this morning, you know, my car troubles been up and down, so I said this morning, I started to get really mad. I said this morning I was gonna start getting car headlights, I started. One, I'm not asking why to come out there, I know what needs to be done, but you're bending the pipe to make it go down, you're trying to make it tedious.
When we started doing programs and concerts,
Yeah,
and we
So I had to get out, I need to